dia. Eu não falo português, so the presentation should be in English or in Spanish. So at least this first will be in English, and then if you need to talk and you prefer to talk in Spanish or what we call in Spain portoñol, also I am available. I think one of the parts that was really underlined by Jorge is that this is creating an ecosystem for the innovation. So that's important that we don't take into account that this is only research, that this is applied research that also is producing businesses. In the program, in the first phase, let's say that the technology foundation that is the base for the development is called the technology platform, core platform FIWARE. So FIWARE is the project dealing with the generic enablers. The generic enablers are basic pieces of software that in the future can be used by different developers to find in the market new innovative applications or services, but not starting from scratch, starting from using applications from third parties, that in this case, the third party is the FIPPP. In this case, anyone participating in the third phase should use the FIWARE generic enablers in different infrastructures that we are going to present. FIWARE is not a platform focused on the, let's say, only the businesses. It's focused on the developers. And the developers can be from one little spin-off from Portuguese University to a software company with 1,000 employees that wants to start in the future. In this case, you see that in this part of the presentation, you can see that this is the platform provider. On top are the consumers. So what FIWARE is trying to do is to really to satisfy these requirements from these consumers. As I said, the first point is targeting the developers' needs. So FIWARE is not, as I said, it's not a project only to be run on their own. Which are the developers' needs and how FIWARE is going to cooperate. For example, first point, imagine that one developer wants to find an application that is really innovative, that is going to connect the physical world to the applications, for example, kind of mixed reality, or just want to have experimentation in a smart city with different sensors for an application that is also checking, for example, the smart lighting. The first point, this connects to the physical world, is what we call the IoT end-to-end enablers. IoT is the Internet of Things, machine-to-machine enablers. These are developed in FIWARE, and these enablers enable you to access to different sensors and devices in an interoperable manner. They are not, let's say, the technology to put in the sensors, but to manage the configure, etc. Second, other problem that developers find is when they need to deal with big amount of data. For example, one of the, let's say, of the main businesses of many software companies is what's so-called the big data. In FIWARE, what we want is to transform the open data and to produce knowledge. That is, from raw data to knowledge, what we have is these data context enablers. This is about big data, about finding the context of a service, and it is about transforming into knowledge, involving also semantics. Third, okay, that's right, but many times big difficulties come when integration of software starts. Then the open innovation needs some easy tools to find and allow this integration, lowering the costs. That's why these integration and composition enablers can be found. Okay, so now we have our integration, we can manage data, we can connect to the physical world, but we need to find how to make a profit out of this. As I said, the program is not only about research, it's also to apply it to the commercial market in the future. That's why the target users want to monetize this. To monetize, there's different business and delivery framework that is helping you to cross-sell and to connect to different platforms to really find and elaborate your business model. But all about this cannot be used without security that is allowing you to keep the privacy and the security of your users. That's why the trust is provided by some security enablers. You are thinking that Fireware have forgotten one of the most important now in Europe, that is about cloud. Let's say that, I don't know, perhaps I'm not wrong if I say that some and very, very strong part of Fireware is about cloud, about providing ELs, PaaS, and SaaS, so you can develop your own cloud, a public cloud or your private cloud. And this is one of the strongest parts of Fireware, that is the advanced cloud enablers, that is allowing you to create your own cloud. And last but not least is about connecting to the network devices. All of us, we have a smartphone, we have a laptop, and also in the networks there are routers, there are end-user devices at home. So there's different enablers that allow you to connect to all these parts of the resource of, let's say, an infrastructure or the end-user device. Why I'm spending time in explaining this is about if you want to develop an application in the third phase for a business sector, you need to find which of these enablers you should use. I will explain later about the catalog, but let's say that all these technical chapters that you can be found in the Fireware, and they are documented in a wiki. Fireware is not about, let's say, only writing deliverables, but it's about the Fireware, it's about a wiki that is explaining exactly which specifications you can find the information you want. These are the 6 main technological chapters from Fireware, and in the wiki you can find, as I say, the much information. I'm not going to dig into the wiki, but what I want is to explain how and what you can find there. In Fireware, the specifications are open. Let's say, these different enablers have an open specification that you can access, and this specification is in different versions, and you can find it in a wiki. It's public and royalty-free. That means that you can use this own specification to develop, if you want, your services. The generic enablers implementation that you can find here is the platform product that implements the given generic enabler. So we need to distinguish this building block, let's say, this service, from what is the implementation and what is the instantiation that I will explain later. All the generic enablers and all the specifications are published in what we call the Fireware catalog. The Fireware catalog, it's one of the pieces where you can enter, find the information you want, and also find how the enablers are working. So if there's internet connection, we will be able to check it. Then what is important is that Fireware will implement at least one reference implementation per generic enabler. That means that all of this is not starting from scratch, as we don't want you to start from scratch. All of this is taken from former RD projects, from knowledge from the companies. Oh yes, so let's say that verify. And okay, so yes, if we have the internet connection, yes. So this is the Fireware catalog, where you can connect. So you have a beautiful picture, and okay, it's not about any beautiful pictures, but it's about the catalog, enablers, and tools. Here in the catalog, you can find the information you may want, for example, to view the enablers that you want to access. Also, you have different tools, for example, to enable in your Eclipse software development tool some plugins to access directly to the catalog. Also, there's information about publishing a generic enabler. the Fiverr platform, publishing a generic enabler is important because now Fiverr is about the generic enablers, but in the future will consist of more of them. Here, if let's say you can see the different enablers in the tool. For example, you start with application mashup, the wire cloud. That is really a very innovative generic enabler and is working very well, especially because it was developed by my university. And for example, you have the big data analysis, cloud edge, let's say the super gateway for cloud, and I'm not going to explain the 60 generic enablers, but really you can you can dig into the information and find some comments also about how this is working. And download it, and you have instances. Some of them are open source, so I encourage you to go to the Fiverr catalog and find it, the information you may want. Okay, so let me return to the presentation. This is committed to commercialize implementation, okay? There are different licensing schemes, but let's say that all of them are clear in the catalog. If you have any difficulty, there is also some directions, some addresses where you can ask your questions. But we are not only to have these applications as a catalog you can download. This is not the idea. The idea is not that you download the code and you install it and you run it. The idea is that this will be provided in an environment that is a powerful environment, first for testing and second for production. For testing in the PvP, the first, let's say, test service has been created that is called the Open Innovation Lab. Before I explain the Open Innovation Lab, I will explain the different releases. There are different releases from Fiverr. Now there's the second release, but it will be a third one. And the different epics and features, because this is following an agile process. If you know about software computation, this is a very common way of developing. In the Fiverr wiki, you can find exactly more and more information if you go beyond the catalog. For example, you can go to the data context management in Fiverr, and you can find the high-level information and also the different enablers with their specifications. Second, as I said, the different use cases trials are doing some enhancements of these generic enablers, and they have their own specific enablers. The situation is that you can imagine that Fiverr is providing the generic ones, the use cases, the specific ones. And this process has been refined, and we are still doing this. And also, the adoption of the user trials is with a shared cockpit. But perhaps you are less interested in the use cases. Perhaps you are more interested about the Fiverr instances. What is a Fiverr instance? A Fiverr instance is not the same as a generic enabler. Here you can find the process. A Fiverr catalog, you select which different generic enablers implementation you want to use. And then you can construct a Fiverr instance. For example, one of the companies participating in Fiverr may want to develop their own commercial instance. That is not exactly the same as the implementation, because it's to assemble using some recipes that you need to cook your own recipe to produce your own product. This selection, normally, imagine an application developer comes to the Fiverr catalog, selects some, and they want to create their own recipe useful for their service. For example, there is no single universal Fiverr instance that is different from, I say, the generic enablers. For example, the instance 1 and the instance 2 are different coming from the generic enablers. For example, the future internet application A can use this instance, application B can use this instance, and all of these can support an application because it's following the same open specifications. That means that you are assuring that all of them are interoperable, but anyone can construct their own business out of this. So, perhaps not entering in so much detail about the instances and generic enablers. If you want to generate your generic enablers, that you are allowed to, but perhaps it's not the main business for this workshop. What is important is that the Fiverr Open Innovation Lab will be up and running very soon. This is only for testing, but it's a powerful tool for that. Provides cloud hosting capabilities, so you can or run your application in your own device or upload your application to the cloud that Fiverr Oil is providing, and is operated under control. This is in the Redes, in the Rediris in Seville, in Spain, and you can develop your own application and connect. This is connected to the common Fiverr capacity, and also one of the parts that is interesting is that will be a big contents with a lot of prices for developers. So the first start point in the second half of 2014, we are going to run this contest for developers. So using different generic enablers to run an application, and the best application will receive a prize. And what is more important, as presented by Jorge, there's 100 million funding, and this dedicating 80% of this to developers. Developers were entrepreneurs, or how you can call it. But it's very important that the SMEs are participating in this ecosystem, because are the ones that are creating jobs in Europe mainly. Because the jobs, let's say, in the big enterprises, okay, are already there, but the big boost in the SMEs, the digital SMEs, can come from using some technology already there, already tested, and already in a program and provided for you for free. In this case, the launch of the Fiverr Oil is planned at the end of July 2013. As I say, will be available in the catalog, and also a general tracker will come with the general matters you may have. So I really encourage you, if you want to go to the third phase, to start doing your experiments, to understand how this is working and how you can enter the business. For example, this is one of the business. Imagine you are a developed web entrepreneur that wants to develop a very innovative application, for example, for measuring in health, the ECG of different patients, and you need the private cloud with big data analysis. In this case, there's tools for creating of dedicated generic enabler instances from the catalog, and the instructions for how to use the global search GE instance. You read the instructions, you have your tools, and the common pan-European facility for trials is where you are going to have your own, let's say, service that you can use remotely. In the third Fiverr Open Call, there's a special dedicated, and the consortium is going to dedicate only to marketing. What we have found in the PPP is that it's not all about research, and the researchers, perhaps, we are not the best for the marketing. In this case, will be a professionalized, let's say, different marketing companies that are going to have different events in London, for example, in the campus party, or in different parts of Europe to attract really the developers. So they can go and to do a kind of trial, let's say, of health, and connect to these generic enablers, so they save time. They don't start from scratch. And this is going to run in their environment without needing to take into account what is happening in the cloud. For example, there will be a network of different data centers, and there's 3 different applications that we think that can be a start. Fiverr is talking to different cities in different countries to, let's see, how this can start with a smart city environment. Smart cities in Europe is one of the big bets of the European Commission and also from the governments. And I can say that also from the private companies, not only thinking about the private money, but thinking about the business. For example, in the Smart City Lab, this is one of the projects or ideas from Fiverr. The Smart Home Lab, this is another one. These are examples of different experimentations that will happen in the future, that we are, in Fiverr is talking with them, with the smart cities, to really create the environment and to really start developing fast applications. And these experimental facilities are one of the the main entry points of what we can show about the future applications of the FEUP. About the key messages, is FEUP is not only about research. FEUP is about software that works. So this is not in many programs in the past, software that was only done for the project and then went to the closet or directly to the basket. This is not the idea. The idea is to develop software that works and really works professional and provide really opportunities for any developer that wants to join us. And this is the final user. So the user is not the commission, the user is not the enterprise, the user are the real developers. And what we're doing is really to try to cook the perfect dish. So here you can find, this guy is called Ferran Adrià. Now Telefónica contracted him for some speeches, and the guy is not rich for the restaurant, he's rich for the speeches. This is off the record, you need to know, and also about the books and television and these kind of things. Okay, he's a 3 Michelin star one, and he was doing some innovation in the cooking, not only trying to do the same with very flavor, better ingredients. He tried to do something really different, with a parallel different thinking, and we want really in the PvP is to really cook the perfect dish, but not in the same way as in the past. What we want is to cook the best dish for the developers, for the users, and what we want is really achieve the 3 Michelin stars in the European applications. And this is what we want really, and these are the different tools that we have. It is a FEUP Open Innovation Lab, Sci-Fi that we will present later, a model beyond the research to the commercial domain, and really applications that are going to demonstrate to the Europeans that this is going to work. And this is all about this, let's say, context and the genetic universe. Thank you very much.